Uhuru brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you to Congo, to Uhuru Congo. And we intend for this to be a YouTube channel. And YouTube sort of blocked us this time out of the gate, but we expect to resolve that contradiction soon and expect that you'll be able to see us on a regular basis using that channel on YouTube. If not, we just have to find another way to communicate, but we know it's extremely important to be talking to each other now about what's transpiring in the Congo. It's important to talk to each other about what's happening in Africa in general, in the African world. It's important for us to remove all of these borders that have been used to separate African people from each other. And we have a situation where Africa is assaulted, millions and scores and hundreds of millions of African people kidnapped and dispersed forcibly around the globe. That results in my being here in St. Petersburg, Florida, USA right now, and others of us being around the world. And then the same imperial power that attacked Africa resulted in also dividing Africa and African people up. All of this has contributed to a real fracturing of our consciousness as one people. We have been divided and false national consciousness imposed on us so that we are not Africans, but we are Nigerians, or we are Jamaicans, or we are Black Brits, and any other number of names that have been imposed on us, so that we lose sight of who we are and what our mission has to be. And of course, what our mission has to be is to re-win our liberation as a people. There is not going to be a Jamaica liberation that results in freedom for African people. There is not going to be a Ghana liberation, a Congo liberation, or a Black Brit or so-called African American liberation. The fact is that we're part of the same movement. We are aware of that. We are conscious of that. That's what the African People's Socialist Party, and which is a part of the African Socialist International, understands quite clearly. And that's the thing that informs everything that we do, recognizing that for us to become a free people, and being free means more than having some constitution that some clever lawyers wrote up. Being free means having access to our freedom, means having access to our own resources, means having access to each other, means being able to develop without intervention by any external force in the world, means that the African working class that produces all the value in the world now becomes custodian of that value and now becomes the one that provides the leadership for our society. That's what the African People's Socialist Party is about, and that's how we know that the struggles that's happening in Congo must be understood just as struggles happening every place else. We want to talk about the Congo now, and we felt like it was important to have a Congo channel, an Uhuru Congo channel, in part because our brothers and sisters in Congo are rising up and making serious kinds of struggles, and they are fighting against incredible odds. They are fighting in isolation from the rest of the African world. So although they are capable and will probably lead to a situation forcing Joseph Kabila to flee out of power, the consequences are not necessarily positive and good for us with his removal. If the only thing is to occur will be the replacement by another Joseph Kabila, another force that represents an external power as opposed to the power of African people in Congo or any other place in the world. So our brothers and sisters are isolated, and every now and then we have an opportunity to get some news of what's happening. We've up until recently, when the government of Congo, Kabila's government, shut down the internet, we at least were hearing some things and saw some images of African people in the streets in Congo demonstrating. We heard some information about the election that just happened on December 31st, where Kabila had worked very hard, the Kabila regime, to continue in power, despite the fact that he had been in power, I think, for, for something like 18 years, which was 2 years longer than his legal mandate was supposed to be. And he wants to be able to continue in power. But the big problem is not Kabila, the individual. The problem is the fact that Africans do not have control of our own resources. The people have been in the street. The imperialists are concerned about the outcome, not at all independent of the fact. It really is important for us to understand that the imperialists are concerned about what genuine liberation will mean for their own economic interests. You know about cobalt and coltan and all the other resources that come from Congo that are very difficult to get from any other place in the world. Tin, you name it. Tremendous amounts of resources come from Congo. And imperialist white power wants to maintain control of that. We remember that they overthrew and murdered Patrice Lumumba immediately after the so-called independence and put in place this guy, Joseph Mobutu, for the purpose of being able to maintain a stranglehold on the resources of Congo. They allowed Mobutu to become perhaps one of the richest men in the world, as long as it did not result in challenging or taking away from imperialist white power all the resources that were coming from Congo. So now our people are struggling. An election has occurred on December 31st. And the Kabila, who is in power, has put forth his own candidate. I think his name is Shadari. And there are other candidates who are so-called oppositions. A group of the so-called opposition came together and picked someone who is to represent the group with an understanding that 2 years after, should he win, 2 years later, he would call for a new election, giving the other so-called opposition forces an opportunity to also ascend to the presidency. The Kabila regime has not yet released the results of the election and is saying that anybody who is talking about results, releasing results, trying to provoke insurgency in the country. The U.S. military has reared its head in Gabon with the stated intent of going into Congo to protect white people should the occasion call for it. So it's a critical moment now, and I think it's important for us to talk about Congo and how we should be moving forward. I wanted to ask Comrade Luwezi Kinshasa, who is the Secretary General of the African Socialist International, who was born in Congo, who has lived for a while in England, who has traversed Africa and Europe, building the African Socialist International, bringing African people into the African People's Socialist Party, wherever they are located. I want to ask Comrade Luwezi Kinshasa to go ahead and give us, first of all, an understanding of what's happening right now in Congo. And then beyond that, we want to talk some about the history of the struggle and resistance in Congo so that we can have a better grip on that. And then what we intend to do following this is, at least on a weekly basis, having a discussion between, led by Comrade Luwezi Kinshasa, that I will participate in, so that we can end the isolation of our brothers and sisters in Congo and see what kind of support we can muster from the international African community to support the struggle that's happening there, and to bring that struggle into the arena of a global African revolutionary project. Uhuru, Comrade Luwezi.
Uhuru, Chairman, thank you so much for initiating this new channel and for having me here also on the program. Basically, difference with now is that the rejection of Kabila regime is intense, really intense. You can't find anybody who can tell you they want Kabila's handpicked successor to continue Kabila's rule. You just can't see anybody. And all the images coming from Congo of the Shadari, who is the handpicked successor of Kabila, all of these organizations were very small, and on many occasions, the same people who came to see him, because when you go to a political rally, you guarantee to have some money and drink and t-shirt and food. They will owe him. These are the people who came to see him, but they will owe him as well. It was embarrassing most of the time that even the state radio and television didn't want to show his images, which is a contradiction, because you are in elections, you want to see him more, and that's how bad his candidacy was. So just totally rejected. And also on top of that, we also have added another dimension to the crisis. This time, the Catholic Church, which is next to the army, is the largest national organization. So you have basically the army, which is national everywhere, and the Catholic Church is well organized everywhere throughout the country. So the Catholic Church, its main leaders, three in particular, in succession, they announced to the world that we know who won this election, and we want you, the government, institution is called SENI, Electoral Commission, to announce the result that is consistent with the popular vote. And the various media and all the media across Africa and everyone has repeated that. That basically we know who won. So Kabila has to say who won, but he has to be consistent. It was we have. This is what Catholic Church said that. Catholic Church was able to have its own witnesses and observers throughout Congo. So they compiled, I think, a third of the vote, and from that sample, they can see there is no doubt who is the clear winner. And worse than that, they say the candidate of Kabila is a far third. So, and this makes the situation even more tense, because even I expected for you to be the president. And apparently what Kabila is doing now, because he's been convinced, or he's been told that you cannot keep power the same way. You can't rule the same four ways. It's not going to work. You go do something else. So apparently that's why it's taking so long to announce the result. They have to work out deals with Fayulu
But what about the Catholic Church? I mean, here you have the Catholic Church. Should the people assume, should people who know anything about this situation assume that the Catholic Church is there to rescue African people, that it is this disinterested organization that is there only because of some kind of religious morality? How do we understand the role of the Catholic Church?
Regarding the Catholic Church, two things. We might say three things to begin with. The role it played in colonial times and it was Catholic Church that basically drove the attack on African culture, on African identity. Today, someone can say a Christian, that's the work of the Catholic Church. And Catholic Church was also an exploiter. They used free labor. You know, in all Catholic schools, Africans have taught, and we come from Catholic churches. You know, they are like a huge opportunity owner. They have access to the, you know, I don't know, I mean millions, but they have access to farms. You will see that most of the schools in the Congo, the vast majority of the schools, are owned by the Catholic Church. And they have all kinds of properties throughout our Congo. And the second thing is the Catholic Church at the key moment, at the decisive moment in 1960, when the movement was on the right, when the was trying to consolidate a genuine anti-colonialist movement against white power there, it was the Catholic Church that, you know, attacked the movement. And they are the first neo-colonial leadership that emerged in the Congo. Chombe is well known, which is well known. The less known is the Archbishop of the Catholic Church. His name is Malula, Joseph Kula. He is the one because he had access to the people. You know, David, he was the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church. He attacked the movement, and this contributed in weakening the movement when he was weaker. He was weakening the Jaffa because he was from there. He just arrived 2 years ago, and he was trying to build a star base. And Malula was one of the people who weakened the movement in Jaffa, and that's the Catholic Church. And also, the Catholic Church played another role when Mobutu's power was going down in the 90s. They played a role to secure a new colonial transition to Congo. So basically, what they is known as the National Conference, the solution the French president, François Mitterrand, imposed on this African neo-colonialism throughout Africa. So in the Congo, the leadership of that process was Archbishop or Cardinal. I'm not sure if we call it in English, but they call it Archbishop or Cardinal Mosengo. Mosengo right now he has retired, but he's still in the financial figure. He presided over the transition that failed. In fact, paved the way for the U.S. to intervene with Rwanda and Uganda army later on, because they accepted Mobutu to be part of the transition as opposed to, you know, doing away with Mobutu. The Catholic Church presided over that. And now, what the role they play, they, when the mandate of Jesus Kabila ended in December 2016, in Nigeria emerged, backed by the Catholic Church, of a 1-year transition. By the end of December 2017, Kabila should have organized elections. So they can transfer power to another neo-communist side. And that was a project of the Catholic Church. All the mobilizations you heard about in December 2017 going to 2018, and subsequent mobilization that followed in February 2018 and others throughout Congo, they were organized by the Catholic Church. So they were demanding that Kabila steps down and organize elections. But the point is that agreed that Kabila should stay for 1 more year to organize elections, when everybody knows Kabila never respected his word. He and the Catholic Church also knew that. So they contributed to the crisis where it is now. Instead of the money that Kabila spends to fight the constitution to go by December 2016, they negotiated the deal, and they failed. Of course, they didn't say the public, they failed, and then now they start losing some credit because they mobilized the people just to put pressure on Kabila. And they went to Kabila on the 8th of August. From that state, he will step down. He will not seek for further mandate. For that, and after that, the Catholic Church didn't say anything. So they were not going to mobilize the people all the way. They don't represent the interests of people. In the long term, they are a safe organization for the peaceful neocolonialism. That's what the Catholic Church is looking for. A peaceful neocolonialism that will maintain things as they are, as long as what they refer to as the rule of the law is applied. But what is the rule of law in the Congo? It's a very obvious rule. It's first rule with the resistance of the people. And they are also concerned about the radicalization of the people. Because in the churches, you begin to see a split. There is those splits. Who wants Kabila to be considered? Who want mobilization of the kingdom? And those who are saying the church should stay away from politics. But in reality, the mobilization is shaking the Catholic Church. The crisis is inside the Catholic Church. And that's something we need to look how we're going to, together people, not necessarily as of the church, but mobilize even the street that is there. Whatever we can take from that church, to drive forward the national liberation movement, it should happen. I've seen definitely priests being weak because they want to be on the street and fight the people and the priests who are doing everything just to make sure Kabila and others agree to a peaceful settlement of the transition of neocolonialism. And that's how the church basically is moving now. The pressure of the working class inside the church, you can say through all the videos, through the images. In fact, throughout the mobilization of the Catholic Church last year, Kabila, as you say, is violent. And everything that is only those military strong, he has assassinated people inside the church. Unheard of. People wouldn't wait for him to come out of the church and kill him. But this guy goes inside the church, they throw grenades inside the church, they kill people inside the church. It's unbelievable. And this has contributed to the radicalization of many members of the church. And I might end by saying that the leadership on, let's say, middle-rank leadership of the church in the Kivu region, the eastern Congo, because that's where the violence really started in 1997 when the troops from Rwanda and Uganda came into Congo. Over there has been already what you might consider a split inside the church, where the priests over there, they openly criticize the government, openly criticize Rwandan and government, openly criticize imperialism, and many leaders in the church they have been assassinated. Some assassinated by poison, and you never heard of the Catholic Church, remembering those guys, assuming the sacrifices they have done. There is people quiet. When in reality, those priests have been fighting the people for a while. It's only now, that the leadership of the church is trying to do something to pretend they are in line with the aspirations and demands of the people. That's where we are.
That's extraordinarily helpful. Look, let's see the people in motion. I think we have a 3-minute video, and let's go ahead and show this video of the people in the stadium. Is this before or after the election? Do we know? Before the election. Okay, let's show that, and then you can talk to us. Tell us what we looked at. Yeah. Yes, at the end of the video. All right. So, come on, Luwezi, were you able to hear the video?
I watched the video and I have it in front of me here. Let's replay it quickly. Yeah. So, I think I got the essence for the saying. So, people have watched that video, they will have noticed basically Fayoum arriving with his wife. His wife was attacked by Kabila side because he's from Cameroon.
Huh.
And Kabila was saying, yeah, you're going to support somebody who's married to a bird. But that upset a lot of people because a lot of people, they believe Kabila is not the son of Luwezi Kinshasa. And he's not from home. You say, how dare you say that when your husband is not from you? So that was crazy stuff. You know. So basically, you saw the Catholic churches, leader who was the greeting Fayoum, and that is, sometimes subtle. It's not subtle, that's often endorsement, by the Catholic Church. And also the chants. The chants were clear. They say, who are you not support Fayoum? we were even support Fayoum. And the other chant would say, it's not Sadari, the leader. The leader is Fayoum. And so that's what the song basically was saying. They're repeating that the leader is Fayoum, and it's not Sadari. And that's the song that's what became popular wherever Fayoum went, and people would say that. People have to realize that before the meeting that took place, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that, end of summer, in Switzerland, Fayoum was known in Kinshasa because he is from Kinshasa. He was known there. But nationally, only people might follow politics, that might know it, but to the regular masses of African people around Congo, they did not know of Fayoum. Never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
But after that conference, they made, there was a press conference where all the so-called 7 leaders, Fayoum, Tshisekedi, Katumbi, Pemba, Makuru, and Muzito, and Kamere, all these 7 guys were in the same room, and Fayoum spoke as the common candidate against Kabila, Hamdik's successor. His rise began from that time. And even 24 hours later, when Tshisekedi and Kamere withdrew from that agreement, it seems like it was so late. I began to see Fayoum being supported by the same case, one common candidate, and when he practiced that's it. The momentum couldn't be stopped. And this took Joseph Kabila by surprise. They did not see Fayoum, nobody saw Fayoum coming anyway. And from there, he has just growth in strategy. And before the election, everyone, they say Fayoum is going to win. It became just intensely popular. Everywhere he went, just masses on the street, calling to the point Kabila prevented him from landing in some cities, disrupt his meetings, use live ammunition, kill people basically, to prevent Fayoum from, doing his campaign. In fact, even in Kinshasa, he did not carry out this campaign. When he came from one of the provinces, at the entry to the city of Kinshasa, the army stopped him. So the final rally he's supposed to do in Kinshasa didn't take place because Kabila would not allow it. So, the rest, is history. We're going to see what the result will be. But at the moment, he's very, very popular. And what I need people to understand, Fayoum is a former employee, some of the director of a mobile company, the U.S. oil company. So he has worked throughout Africa, Ethiopia, and other places. So, looking at a revolutionary, but looking at somebody who is smart, he is a good listener, and he talks back to the people, what the people want to hear. And when you listen to him, he is doing very well compared to the rest of the candidates. You listen to, when he speaks to Lingala, for example, he knows what to say. I'm going to build roads. We're going to create million jobs every year. We're going to, free schools and things like that, And that's exactly what the masses want to hear. And he's been saying that, and that makes it easier for him to communicate. So you can say, from what I see, a good demagogue, I might say, but he knows how to say things people want to hear to the people, basically. So that's basically some of the things we might add to about Martin Fayoum. Yes,
Uhuru. Yeah, thank you, Kamal. I think that's really important. What we have, though, is that a crisis created in Congo by the people who, using every means that is immediately available to them to fight against the leadership of the Kabila regime. And everything short of armed struggle as a primary way of resistance has emerged. The Kabila regime has participated in mass murders inside Congo to keep the people down. As I said earlier, he, in many ways, cooperates or collaborates in many ways with the regimes of Museveni from Uganda and Kagame out of Rwanda. They share in the looting of Congo. Kabila himself is a very rich person, very wealthy now. We have his sister who owns, I've read, 40% of the bank, one bank of the Democratic Republic of Congo. He has another twin sister. He has a twin sister who is some kind of business kingpin that's there. He has a brother who has a so-called large business empire, from mines to hotels. They're looting their country, and the people are starving and dying and living under the worst kinds of conditions. So the people have been resisting. They hate that regime. As you mentioned, Kabila appears not to have won any election that was held there. And but he's been able to maintain power in part, obviously, with the gun, and also because he has established a certain relationship with, he has maintained a relationship with certain imperialist powers, and the people have been trying to fight in isolation. So they create this, the people create this crisis. And the crisis is one that has demanded a response by international colonial capitalist ruling class. And they are in motion using everything at their disposal. It was they who killed Lumumba from various countries, and I guarantee the same thing is happening in trying initially to protect the Kabila regime. But I think that the possibility of having Kabilaism without Kabila, to having more or less the same kind of situation, because the people create the crisis, then the people don't have their own organization. So the Catholic Church, spewing pious morality and stuff like that, having its own interest in maintaining the stability of imperialist rule in Congo, they are a factor. And then when you look at Fayula, I've read that Fayula, you mentioned Mobile, but is Exxon Mobil, is that what it is? Because I know that he was working for Exxon.
That's right. The U.S. company and oil company.
And the previous Secretary of State under Donald L. Trump, what's his name, was he ran Exxon. He was the one who ran Exxon. So you got this Exxon guy who appears to have won this election, and he also is some other kind of big-time business guy. And he has already made an arrangement, from what I read. Perhaps I saw something that you sent out, where I saw him being interviewed, and it was revealed that he has made an agreement with two of the other so-called opposition persons, that they backed him with an understanding that after 2 years that he would call another election, so everybody would have an opportunity, other opportunists, other neo-colonialists would have an opportunity to loot the country equally. So now the people are left with Fayula, the Catholic Church, and Trump. The U.S. government has sent troops to Gabon, threatening to intervene if necessary to protect white people or so-called American lives. It's the same line that was used when they attacked Congo to protect the white missionaries and things like that in 61, something to that effect. And the people now cheering and turned out to vote in huge numbers. I saw the videos, I saw the pictures of the people thousands of people coming out to participate in this election, but they don't have a candidate. The people do not have a candidate. Who is Fayula? And I'm turning this over to you, Comrade Luwezi.
Yes, sir.
Uhuru.
Yes. As you rightly said, Fayulu is the front of an alliance called Lamuka. Lamuka is in Lingala words to mean wake up. And that's the alliance created out of that conference that took place in Switzerland, a conference that was run and led by a British guy called Alan Doss.
Wait a minute.
Who also was at one point the leader.
Wait a minute. Where did the conference happen?
In Switzerland.
Wait a minute.
In Geneva.
Wait a minute.
Switzerland.
Wait a minute. The
It's not your property, but he made his money by selling the national asset in Katanga. So that's why he made his money. And he was with Kabila all the time. It's only when it became clear that Kabila would run for a third mandate that he split from Kabila. So the difference between the split between Katumbi and Kabila has nothing to do with the liberation of the people, but the split in terms of it's turn now to be the president. So that's Katumbi. And secondly, Bemba. Jean-Pierre Bemba was the runner-up to the 2006 election. He won the elections, but the U.S. and the Belgian white power basically told him to accept defeat. And they exiled him to Belgium. And in Belgium, the Belgian locked him up, took him to ICC, the International Criminal Court, and they opened that charge of a genocide in Central Africa Republic, genocide committed by its troops, they said. So they locked him up for 10 years, only released him just weeks before the election, so he can come and run for elections. But Kabila did not validate his candidacy because they said he had a criminal record because he was charged for corruption in ITC. So that's another charge next to the crime, next to the whole crime that ICC put on him. They had another crime that he brought witnesses to the court to lie to the court. So that was another charge. So they used that to not validate his candidacy. And we have Matungulu. Matungulu is an IMF director. His career is based on working for the IMF. So that makes it three. And the fourth person is Musito. Musito has been the prime minister of Joseph Kabila. And it's just mind-blowing. That's just to have Musito in your group, in your camp. So that's Musito. What did he say? Kamere was the president of the National Assembly of Joseph Kabila government. And he's the man who wrote a book in 2001. Basically, 2006. He campaigned for Joseph Kabila to be president. He wrote a book, Why I Have Chosen Joseph Kabila as my president, something like that. So, and in 2011, people said, let's have one candidate against Joseph Kabila. So Etienne Tshisekedi will be the president, the father of the current Tshisekedi, which will be the only candidate against Joseph Kabila. Kamere refused, so he ran his own candidacy, so giving us something like three candidates. And the people just say Kabila stayed in power because Kamere ran his own. He was another candidate instead of having one common candidate. So that's why the masses gave him the name of Chameleon, the one who always changes his color. So that's Kamere. Did I forget somebody? I think that's all the candidates. So these are the seven candidates. So you can see all the seven candidates are really neo-colonialists who have a track record. They have proven loyal servants of imperialism. Yeah. And these are the people who make up Lamuka, the leadership of Lamuka. So based on that, people should expect anything from Lamuka. You know, if they come to power, yes, it will be a new government, but it will be imperialism as usual. You know, so that's basically to say who Martin Fayulu is. He doesn't have. He didn't have a national organization. So now he's known throughout Congo. That might change for him, but he was somebody that everybody in that coalition saw as a small force, as a small entity. So maybe that's why they picked him up, so they can be able to influence him all along the way. But they didn't foresee that he would probably become so popular. I don't think they saw that, and that has been really a surprise in this process, that somebody can grow so fast that it's just unbelievable. But it does not mean the masses will be loyal to Fayulu based on what he will do. The masses have gone for Fayulu because there is no alternative. Exactly. Anybody who can win, anybody who is perceived as a potential winner, people will go for him. And and that's the case. He never took post in the Kabila government, and that played in his favor. He has never been in that government, definitely. And he has been also an activist in terms of demonstrations. He was always there in those demonstrations in Kinshasa against the government. And at one point he was beaten up, his face was swollen terribly, things like that. I think these also has contributed. He begins, to see him as somebody who has been there fighting for what they refer to as democracy in the Congo. And all this played in his favor. But we know better. We ask internationalists. We don't believe people in what they say, but who they are, what they do, what's the history, what was the development, what process took them to where they are and what is their class outlook, what is the worldview. So when you look at all these, Bemba, Katumbi, Katumbi and Bemba was the man that Museveni used to carry out the counter-insurgency war against Luwezi Kinshasa in the Congo. We talk about Joseph Kabila being violent. In fact, we should go back to the arrival of Museveni to power in January 1986. That's how Museveni came to power. And Museveni came to power with the support of Mobutu, the British, the US, and all that. And in his army, he had Kagame and all the refugees who came from Rwanda in Uganda. And the way they came to power, it was through sheer violence. Violence that frightened the people. But the ruling class, the white ruling class, never said anything about this violence. Museveni, they wiped out the entire villages and blame it on the opponents. And that's the same tactics Paul Kagame used. In fact, Paul Kagame came to Rwanda with the Ugandan army. It was an invasion supported by the US and the British. And Clinton presented Museveni and Kagame as the new leaders of Africa, new type of leaders in Africa, when in reality they were murderers of just higher level. And all the massacres that occurred in Rwanda, we only saw the end of it for propaganda reasons, so they can justify why Kagame has to be in power. More than he tell us that most of the massacre occurred under the hands of Paul Kagame himself, and there are evidence that he was the one who triggered the genocide by shooting down the planes that was carrying these two Hutu presidents. And when it came to Congo, which was the final objective, basically, that the United States wanted to control the whole area, what they call the Great Lac region, put the French out, the Belgians out, and things like that. That was just true, absolute violence with, as we know, 1 million killed in Rwanda, 6 million killed in the Congo, and the rest has been quiet on that. That's how Museveni, Kagame, and Kabila have been in power, because there is no, they have not been exposed for all the crimes against humanity they've committed in Africa, because they are the new type of neo-colonialists. If I might say one more thing, is that what they decided to do in the Congo, to understand what's going on now, in U.S. imperialism, they made the decision that Congo should be run from Rwanda and Uganda. That's the strategy that put in place. So the overthrow of Mobutu followed that line. And that's why the question of the struggle for national liberation in the Congo is directly linked to the national liberation struggle in Rwanda, in Uganda, more than anywhere else you can say in Africa, because right now, as we're talking, in the army of Congo, you have something like 400 high officers from the Rwandan army. You have 40,000 troops from Rwanda in the Congo. And you have proxy groups controlled by the Ugandan army in the east of Congo. You have, of course, MONUSCO, the UN army, with some 23,000 troops, who does not engage Uganda or Rwandan army or anything else that might disrupt what they consider as the status quo. And this explains basically the level of violence, because people are there, they act as mercenaries, and they follow orders that have to be executed. When they say you're going to clear this village, you want a soldier, you have to clear that village. If you don't, you'll be killed. We have, testimonies like that, middle-rank officers saying they can't stop killing. If they do stop killing, they will be killed instead. And that explains, the massive rapes, the massive killings, and the things like that, and the nature of Kabila's government. The readiness to kill. Peaceful protests, they will attack it with, live ammunition. Even the cameras are there, they don't care, because they know white imperialism will not do a propaganda against them as they will do against Bashar Assad, or they will do against Iran or against Venezuela. They will not do that, and they know it. Museveni knows it. Joseph Kabila knows that. Paul Kagame knows that too. They have the backing of the white race, and therefore that impunity, they can do anything they want to do, and they have raised the level of violence in Africa as never seen since the time of Leopold II or something like that. Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank you, Comrade Luwezi. It's a very important discussion that we're having, and obviously the missing ingredient in this entire process is the African People's Socialist Party.
That's right.
The people don't have their own organization, and of course it's disturbing to see that the only alternative that the people have that's offered to them is through this Fayulu, who is clearly an employee of the U.S. energy major corporations, and that he's in bed. Even if one wanted to dare hope that despite he was some kind of petty bourgeois force, that something could happen in the best interest of our people in Congo, even if one wanted to hope, that you look at who he's brought with him, you look at the people who came into this alliance with him, the people that he's already made deals with in terms of holding other elections so that they can get a piece of the action, people whose reputation for corruption is almost as great as that of Kabila and previous forces. So it is very little that anybody could look to Fayulu to bring to our struggle. So it's a really important issue of having the party there, and it's a real concern. Again, that our people are being misled, and millions of people have come out to support Fayulu because they don't have anything of their own to support. The party is not there, and that's something that we have to remedy. And of course, what we have to do with this discussion is help people understand what's happening in Congo, and because that's important. And people see the Catholic Church intervention, if they don't know any better, they think that some kind of religious piety is what is the basis of the Catholic Church being involved here. And again, they have the ability, the potential of thinking that Fayulu, simply because it means that this despot, Kabila, may be replaced, they have the potential for being led to believe that Fayulu represents progress for us, and he doesn't represent any progress at all. So we're going to be continuing to talk about Congo. At least once a week, we'll be having Uhuru Congo, and we should be able to go to a YouTube channel next week. In the interim, what will happen is that that we will be uploading. Is that how you said this discussion? Yes. And will that be? Will people be able to get this on YouTube, or will they be uploading to YouTube? So this discussion will be available. And then within 24 hours, this program will be uploaded to YouTube. And then we followed the guidelines for live YouTube channel. However, YouTube has not made the channel live as of this viewing. And so for other information on Congo and videos, visit Uhuru Congo on YouTube. Next live discussion will be happening next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Uhuru Congo channel. I mentioned earlier that the U.S. President Donald Trump has made it a point to announce that U.S. troops, battle ready U.S. troops have been sent to Gabon for the purpose of intervening in Congo if necessary to protect white people's lives. And I think this is something that we should be concerned about. Everybody should be concerned about. Comrade Luwezi has already made it clear that there are already troops there. There's the United Nations that's been there, and that's a U.S. deployed force there. And of course, United States troops are all over the continent of Africa for the very exact purpose of being able to protect what they see as their interests in Africa, to protect their interests from African people ourselves. Africans around the world should be on standby. And if the U.S. should move troops into Congo, I don't care if it's 3, if they announce the movement of troops to Congo, then Africans around the world on the next day after announcement of U.S. troops in the Congo, we should demonstrate wherever we can. We should have actions wherever we can. We should initiate clear demonstrations of our opposition in every city, in every village, at every embassy of the United States, any place that we can in the federal buildings that's located within the United States. There should be some kind of demonstration of opposition. Africans have to do this. Nobody else will. You notice that the one reason that we had to do Uhuru Congo is because none of what we're talking about is on the front pages in U.S. media. While they may talk about a lot of other stuff, they don't talk about Africa, and they definitely are not talking about what happened in Congo in a way that makes it possible for us to understand. I saw a picture just the other day of the U.S. troops who they had taken into Gabon in preparation to go into Congo, and a whole lot of those were Africans. And we have a responsibility, African people, to actually win those African troops to desert, to betray any orders that they are given, and to remember that the real struggle for African liberation is not on the side of the United States, but we need those troops, we need African troops fighting for us in Houston, Texas, where they're killing 7-year-old girls, and in St. Petersburg, Florida, where white men are snatching young African women across counters and doing terrible things to them. We need those African troops to fight on the side of our people in Congo and not for our enemies against our people in Congo. So at minimum, what we need to do on the day after any announcement of U.S. Troop involvement, troop intervention in Congo, we should do whatever actions we are able to do, wherever we're located, any place on the planet Earth. And that should be whether it's in occupied Tanzania or South Africa, or whether it's in Tanzania or Nairobi, or whether it's in Kingston, or whether it is in Houston, Texas, or any place possible, we should respond to that. It should become clear that they cannot attack Africa and African people without some kind of response from Africans, depending on our capabilities wherever we're located in the world. Even if it's only one person with one sign that's marching up and down in front of a federal building in Idaho. But the point of U.S., we have to demonstrate our outrage and opposition, and it helps other African people to understand that we are in this together and that our freedom is directly connected. It's one freedom. And so I want everybody to be prepared, be on the lookout for what's happening in Congo, and come back to Uhuru Congo channel on YouTube. The next live discussion again will be next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Comrade Luwezi, is there anything you want to say as we shut it down? Are you there, Luwezi?
Yes, well, I'm there. I was muted, so I was talking to myself.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be outside the Downing Street on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. it's going to be a brief demonstration. We say we will do that when you announce the result today, regardless if Fayulu wins or not, so that we can advance the democratic aspiration of African people in the Congo there, because we already concluded whoever wins, it's going to be that company bourgeoisie, and we want to advance the struggle. So it's going to be after Downing Street at 5 p.m. on this Tuesday. So we're working on a press release that should be ready, should go out later tonight. That's one. And the second thing, on the 17th of January, we'll be at 336 Brixton Road at 7 p.m. That will be the anniversary of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba and Maurice Paul and Joseph Okito. And we will be there doing a summation and the way forward on that day. By the way, January, the 4th just gone was the National Month Days in the Congo. The crisis we're looking at today, many do place the origin of it on the 4th of January 1959, when the Belgian colonial government gunned down, used to believe what I read, 200 people, but an historian just came out saying 500 people were gunned down on that day. And that was the beginning of the crisis for Belgian colonialism. They could not rule in the old ways. So January is quite significant in terms of resistance of Africans that part of the world. World Chairman.
Uhuru, and I want to appreciate, that's January 17th, the celebration of the anniversary of the murder of Patrice Lumumba. And I think we should call on Africans everywhere to do something to celebrate his life and resistance, and call on Africans everywhere to live like Lumumba. Thank you, Comrade Luwezi. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. And again, we'll be back again next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Uhuru Congo YouTube channel. Uhuru.
Thank you. Thank you.